Special edition of Power Play today on our final Friday front bench of 2023, breaking down the political performances of the year. Next category is the most successful politician of the year. And remember, success can be defined in a whole bunch of different ways. Let's bring in our guests who've been doing a great job at being speedy in their answers. So we're covering a lot of ground today, which is great. Sabrina Grover, Melanie Paradis, Guratin Singh, Rachel Aiello, and Mel, we're going to start with you. Most successful politician, and yours might be a bit obscure for some people watching, but you picked a provincial politician from Ontario. Who is he and why?
Okay, so I've picked the Ontario Minister of Energy, Todd Smith. He definitely should not be obscure. He's becoming a bit of a hero, certainly on the nuclear stage. So he's had two major climate change initiative wins this year, I guess in the past 2 years. But one of them is supporting the steel transition to electric from coal powered. That's going to be huge for the industry and also for the electric vehicle mandate. And the second is we have two new builds happening in nuclear in Ontario. This is the first time in 30 years that has happened. You can't understate how significant that this is. It's a huge win for him. He also went to COP28 this year to advertise the nuclear industry within Ontario and selling our small modular reactor technology around the world. We're going to be the first jurisdiction in the G7 to have a small modular reactor. His success has been incredible.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, reading a little research here as you were talking about him and his background and his bio. Guratin Singh, what do you think of Todd Smith?
Todd Smith is a nice fellow. We disagree with politics, but we served alongside one another when I was at the legislature. So it's always, politics aside, I'm glad he's getting some shine.
Sabrina?
I think on the energy file, it's a really interesting dynamic across the country. So I think that Todd hasn't caused a huge amount of waves across the country, but certainly has made progress in Ontario, which is good for that province. And I look forward to seeing what happens on the nuclear file.
Rachel Aiello.
This is one of those great examples, Todd, of sometimes the most competent, quiet minister has their head down doing their thing, and it isn't someone that everyone might be familiar with. And I think this was probably part of why Mel picked him. And I think that this is just a nice kind of reminder for folks that, we talk a lot about people who are in the headlines making big announcements, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but there's a lot of work that gets done federally, provincially, municipally that you might not hear about, but there are people there who are doing what they think is right.
Good point. The ones who yell the loudest are often not the best, and we all know that. To you, Rachel, let's stay with you. Who's your pick? Best performance for a politician?
So I'm giving mine to Karina Gould, the government House leader. I think over the number of years, she's kind of built up her profile, kind of saving herself from what could have been a glass cliff, being handed the broken electoral reform promise. From there, she went on to secure childcare deals, deal with that passport backlog, and then coming into this role as the government House leader, I think she's been quite successful in doing what the Liberals have failed to do so far, and that is really framing Pierre Poilievre. She's come out quite strong against him in the last number of weeks, perhaps a testament to how testy things have been, but she's been quite strong in making some of the points and messages that I think we're going to hear from Liberals more going forward, trying to come at him, suggest or make comparisons to U.S. politics. And I think she's been a really interesting person to do that. Now she's prominent on that front bench, quite near the Prime Minister every day in question period. So for those reasons, she's getting my kudos this year.
Let's start with you, Mel, on Karina Gould. And it is true, she's very measured. She really seems like she's always done her homework, and she really has been pressing the attack on Pierre Poilievre in the last couple of weeks. Not the only minister, by the way, because we've really seen this concerted effort by the Liberals to go after the leader of the Conservatives. What do you think about Karina Gould, Mel?
She's been doing all of that and growing a baby. She's like 8.5 months pregnant. So she has tremendous respect from me for being able to do a solid job every day and be very pregnant. It is hard to do that.
To you, Guratin, what do you think of Karina Gould?
I think her emphasis on calling out the Conservatives for their anti-scientific position and their very much switch or their shift to the far right is important. I think that's an important step to defending democracy and making Canada more robust and just. And So for that, she is someone I think who should be recognized.
Yeah, and last to you, Sabrina, you're the Liberal here with us. I mean, obviously, when you're the House Leader, you are a spokesperson, you are out there every day in the media. The Karina Gould choice was interesting because she's not fire and brimstone. She's, as we said, more measured, but she still is able to bring it when she needs to. And the Liberals have been doing an interesting job in the last couple of weeks of trying to call out the Conservatives on populist politics and a number of the issues they've been pushing, like axe the tax. What's your take on Karina Gould?
I mean, I think Karina has been a phenomenal performer throughout, throughout her time as minister and as an elected official. I think in the last couple of weeks, she's done a really, really good job at framing the argument and framing the debate and the contrast with the Conservatives in the media in a way that's simple and understandable. I mean, I saw that press conference she held yesterday where she said she wasn't going to handle any more of Pierre's temper tantrums. And I just think that's such a really easy way to put it to people so that voters get it. And, while House leaders of past have been spokespeople for the government, I think very few have been able to capitalize on media the way that Karina has. And I think for that, while also being pregnant, is a phenomenal feat for her. And I think she is bringing that fire back to the Liberals.
Garatin, to you, and you've chosen Olivia Chow, the mayor of Toronto, who, of course, longtime federal NDP MP, the wife of the late Jack Layton as well, in her role as mayor. Take it away.
It's been an amazing run for Olivia Chow. She's done more for the city of Toronto in her short time as mayor than I think many other mayors have done in their entire period as elected. Specifically with uploading the Gardiner and the DVP to the province, she inherited a city that was on the brink of bankruptcy. And she's able to demonstrate she can work with anyone. She's pragmatic. And she's able to bring forward a solution to Toronto's funding issues that will really make this city world class and get us the funding we need for the services we need.
Mel, I know that Conservatives, those right of centre in Toronto, some of them anyway, are howling over this, very worried about what Olivia Chow will mean for them and their taxes. What's your take on how she's done?
Well, look, I mean, she's already demonstrated that she can get a great deal with Doug Ford, and I think that that's a great success. So she's gone from really being a protester to being a powerful leader who's really just interested in governing and getting things done for the city. So if she's willing to keep working in lockstep with Doug Ford, I think that that's a great sign for the city of Toronto.
Sabrina, your read on Olivia Chow.
When I was thinking about this question, and I was thinking about the mayors across the country, there weren't really very many that I thought had a phenomenal year, except for Olivia Chow. And I think not only did she win that election definitively, but the way that she's come out and been able to turn things around in the city has been positive. I think what I would look forward to next year is seeing if she's going to be able to continue to build those bridges and bring more people on side and not just fall into representing one part of Toronto. But yeah, I think she's had a really interesting year and has been able to accomplish a lot in a few short months.
Rachel Ayala.
I think she's also been interesting on the federal stage. Right out of the gate, she was calling on the federal government for more money for housing for migrants, more money for housing, flat out. And we've seen her there at a number of federal announcements and press conferences. She's been asked for comment repeatedly about what she sees as lack of funding. So if she's going to keep grilling the government on that and keeping their feet to the fire, then I think she is an interesting person to watch in terms of what that entire region can be offered from the federal government if she's going to keep them in the headlines.
Sabrina, to you, you've chosen Sean Fraser, the housing minister. We know there's, of course, a housing crisis in this country. He's really been out there, lots of announcements, more than I can count, trying to show the government understands. They are under a lot of pressure now to show results. You're giving him top marks.
I think that Sean Fraser, similar to Karina Gould, has had a really successful overall time in Parliament. But I think in this file, he's been transformational. Not only has he been able to make significant policy announcements, he's been able to kind of make those deals with municipalities, which is really interesting and different in the terms of the way that the government's done business before. But he's also been conversational. He's been able to respond to the attacks from the Conservatives in a way that is simple, easy to understand. These videos have been great. And I think he's just been such a fire performer for the Liberals, not only in actually delivering some of the commitments that they said that they were going to do, but also actually elevating the conversation on housing and making it easy to understand.
Garatin, your take on Sean Fraser.
I hear the words with respect to praise for him, but given how bad the housing crisis is in Canada right now, it's hard to, like, he wears that. That's something that is obviously, given his portfolio, it's something that he's connected to. People are struggling. People are struggling to find a home or a place to rent or anything. And it's hard to separate him from that fact.
Mel?
Now, a lot of the announcements that he's been making, and it does feel like there's like 2 a week at this rate, feel like they're a drop in the bucket. Many drops, granted, because there are a lot of announcements, but it's just such a big, overwhelming problem. It's going to take time to see if any of them make a real difference. I thought it was interesting earlier this week when they announced that they're going to be making available the building plans, just like they did after World War II, and try to incentivize developers to build what used to be called like strawberry box houses back in the 40s, a particular like format of a home. It'll be interesting to see if that takes off, but hey, at this point, they've got to throw everything they've got, including the kitchen sink, at the problem.
Yeah, Rachel, last word to you on Sean Fraser. And it is true, there's a couple of thousand homes here, maybe 10,000 there. We need, I think the CMHC has said, 3.5 million homes. So these are drops in the bucket, but lots of drops do eventually add up. Your take?
It's really going to come down to what that materializes to. If we're seeing into next year actual progress on this, otherwise it will just look like a bunch of announcements and not much to show for it. I do think the other element of Sean Fraser that is interesting right now is this conversation around what does the post-Trudeau Liberal Party era look like, and is he someone that is trying to kind of get in shape for that leadership race? This is all speculation, obviously. It's what we love to chat about here on Parliament Hill. So I'm keeping an eye on Sean Fraser in that respect as well, where he's headed from here.